At today's weekly briefing on the pandemic, Indiana's chief medical officer acknowledged that some people are hesitant about taking the vaccine. In an effort to help ease those concerns, she explained the exact science behind it.
Many vaccines put a weakened or inactivated germ into our bodies, but these vaccines that we will be receiving first are mRNA vaccines, and they take a different approach. They teach our cells how to make a harmless protein called the spike protein that is found on the surface of the virus that causes COVID-19. This protein then triggers an immune response inside our bodies. That immune response produces antibodies to protect us from getting infected if the real virus enters our bodies. These vaccines cannot give someone COVID-19. They do not use live virus. They also don't interact or affect our DNA in any way. While this will be the first mRNA vaccine approved for use, researchers have been studying this and working on these vaccines for decades.
That explanation might not be enough for some people. Concerns, skepticism, or questions may depend on your background. For African Americans, vaccines and medical research are tied to a dark history. WRTV's Cameron Riddle shows how leaders in the Black community could play a role in easing fears.
As Indiana waits for its first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, there is hesitation among many Hoosiers, but that hesitation is likely highest among African Americans.
As a pastor of 32 years and as a professor for several years and just, kind of a social scientist myself, I can tell you it's not going to just be do this and the African American culture by and large embraces it. It's not going to work that way.
The community's mistrust of medical research goes back hundreds of years to the days of slavery and continues today. Many of them know the story of a group of Black men from Tuskegee, Alabama, who were used by researchers to track the then unknown course of syphilis from 1932 to the 1970s.
They were enrolled in 1932, and even though there was medication available in 1947 that could have treated the syphilis, they were not told.
Elaine Hernandez is a medical sociologist at Indiana University. She says while people of all backgrounds may be hesitant to take the new vaccine, the history of African Americans and medical research must be acknowledged.
Everything that we've seen so far this summer, all of the systematic racism and institutional racism that exists in other institutions exists in medical institutions as well.
Dr. Clyde Posley Jr. is an Indianapolis pastor who hasn't held an in-person church service since March. He says when the coronavirus vaccine is available, he'll gladly take it and even do it publicly, but only after enough people have taken the first round and it's proven safe. He says only when that's done can the Black church push their members to get the vaccine.
There is, of the people I've talked to, there's a consensus that we would like to see some specific trials relative to Black people, headed by Black people, and influenced by Black stakeholders in the African American community.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.